Welcome to the deep dive. You know how when you go to a magic show, part of the thrill is knowing you are being totally fooled,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Like the illusionist shows you this empty box, waves a wand, and suddenly, boom, there's a tiger.
Yeah.
You know there has to be a trapdoor somewhere in there, but you just kind of want to believe in the magic. You want the spectacle of it all.
Yeah, we all do. It's that classic suspension of disbelief. We actually enjoy seeing the impossible happen right in front of us, and we deliberately ignore the mechanics making it happen because digging into the reality just ruins the fun.
Exactly. But when you step into the world of artificial intelligence right now, especially this massive new wave of generative AI, that whole magic show mentality gets dangerous really quickly.
Yeah, it really does.
Because these tech companies are pulling tigers out of boxes, but they're out here telling us it's not an illusion. They're basically claiming they have bent the laws of physics and reinvented reality.
And as the audience, or I mean, in this case, you as the developers, the content creators, and the businesses relying on this tech, you really need to know if there is a trapdoor. You have to know the mechanics of how the trick actually works before you bet your entire production workflow on it.
Which brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We are cutting through the massive, honestly overwhelming hype surrounding a major tech event that literally just happened yesterday, the July 30th, 2026 launch of MiniMax's H3 model.
Which some of you might also know as Hailuo AI on their consumer platform.
Right, right. And to do this, we are grounding our conversation in an incredibly thorough, in-depth Spanish language analysis from OscarAI. The goal here is simple. We are going to separate the verified engineering facts from the marketing fluff for you.
And I think we also need to set the scene a bit for why this specific launch is just dominating the conversation right now. I mean, July 2026 has been an absolute frenzy for the Chinese AI industry.
Oh, totally.
It feels like every single week there's a new earth-shattering milestone. We just saw Kimi K3 drop its 2.8 billion parameter open weights. We had Alibaba previewing Q 3.8 at the World Artificial Intelligence Conference in Shanghai.
It's just nonstop.
Yeah, the entire ecosystem is moving at breakneck speed, iterating way faster than anyone predicted. And now MiniMax is stepping up, basically trying to completely steal the spotlight and dominate the market with H3.
So whether you are a developer looking to build a new tool, a startup founder managing a really tight production budget, or just insanely curious about the global AI arms race, this deep dive will give you the exact details you need without getting bogged down in undefined jargon. We're getting into the weeds so you don't have to. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with what exactly this machine is.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because there is already a ton of confusion floating around online just about the name alone.
Oh, for sure. The naming conventions in AI right now are just a bit of a minefield, really.
Yeah.
Every company is using the similar alphanumeric soup.
Yeah, so let's clear the board first. H3 is not M3. M3 was the language model that MiniMax released back in June 2026. That is a totally different product that's just focused on text.
Right.
And furthermore, H3 should not be confused with Kuaishou's Kling O3, even though they sound incredibly similar and they're, competing fiercely in the exact same video generation space.
It's so easy to mix them up.
It really is. So H3 is specifically the successor to MiniMax's previous video model, Hailuo 2.3. Some people in the community have started calling it Hailuo 3.0, but officially, if you're looking for it on the API, it is designated as MiniMax H3.
And that distinction is vital. And what makes H3 such a disruptive leap forward isn't just that it generates highly realistic video, it is the fact that it processes text, images, video, and audio in a single unified context.
Okay, let's pause on that phrase because unified context sounds like a really slick marketing buzzword. What are the actual verified specs we are looking at here?
Right, so the output parameters are highly specific and honestly ambitious. It generates clips ranging from 4 to 15 seconds in length.
Which is pretty long.
Yeah, it is. And the resolution is full 2K, running at a smooth 24 frames per second. But the real breakthrough, and this is where the concept of unified context becomes tangible, is the native stereo sound.
Oh, right.
It generates the audio in the exact same computational pass as the video. It is not taking a silent generated video and just slapping a synthesized sound effect track over it afterward. The model understands and renders the audio and the visual as one continuous integrated thought.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And the input capacity is massive, too. According to the OscarAI analysis as a user, you can combine up to 9 different images, 3 separate video clips, and 3 distinct audio tracks as references in a single prompt generation.
Yeah, the volume of data it can handle is staggering.
Just imagine the creative control that gives you. If you are directing a commercial, You could feed the model 3 videos of a specific camera pan, 9 images of a unique desert landscape, and a specific voiceover track, and the model uses all of that data simultaneously to generate the final scene.
Exactly. The ability to ingest that much multimodal reference material at once fundamentally changes how a user prompts the AI.
I was trying to think of how to visualize this shift because it's a huge leap in workflow. If you think about the old way of doing video generation, it was basically like a relay race.
Okay, yeah.
You start with a language model to write your script. Then you hand the baton to an image generator to get the visual style. Then you hand the baton to a video generator to make that image move. Then you hand it to a voice cloner for the dialogue. And finally, to an animator to sync the lips.
Which is just exhausting.
It is. And subtle creative details get dropped at every single handoff.
The relay race analogy captures the friction perfectly. I mean, you lose fidelity and stylistic cohesion at every single transfer point because those models don't natively talk to each other.
Right. But H3, with this unified context, is more like a master chef baking a cohesive cake. You don't bake the flour, then bake the sugar, then bake the eggs separately and smash them together. You put all the ingredients, the camera movement, the character design, the voice, into the bowl at once, give it one natural language prompt, and the chef bakes it into a single, perfectly integrated cake.
I love that. We can even take that baking analogy a step further to really understand the mechanics here. It is like molecular gastronomy. The model forces all those different ingredients, the pixels from the images, the sound waves from the audio, the text from your prompt, into a shared mathematical space.
Latent space.
Yes, exactly. We call this a latent space. By forcing them to share the same underlying mathematical structure, they speak the same language from frame one. And that shift from the relay race to the master chef is a fundamental shift in the entire generative AI industry. We are moving away from having to chain multiple isolated, specialized expert tools together. We're actually entering the era of the single multimodal generalist.
But to bake that unified cake without burning down the kitchen computationally, they clearly had to redesign the oven. Which brings us to the actual engineering under the hood. Since we know what it claims to do, we have to examine how they are achieving it and whether we should actually believe the company's technical claims.
Right, because there's a lot of branding here.
Oh yeah, MiniMax is throwing around some incredibly heavy proprietary terminology. We've got contextual omni-representation, we have the H3 omni-transformer, and my personal favorite, in-context regeneration.
They certainly have a flair for branding, I'll give them that. But if we strip away the marketing trademarks, we can evaluate the engineering logic they're using to justify these claims. The core bottleneck MiniMax had to solve to achieve 2K resolution is what is known as the tokenizer problem.
Okay, let's make sure we define that for everyone. Usually when we talk about tokens, we are talking about text, like a word or a piece of a word, but here we are talking about visual tokens.
Pixels.
Right.
Well, not raw pixels, actually, and that is a crucial distinction. Models don't process raw pixels. They compress them into a mathematical shorthand. Those are the latent tokens we just talked about.
Got it.
Previous models in the Hailuo line used a standard tokenizer that prioritized low-level detail at this token level. When you are generating a video at 720p, that shorthand is manageable, but when you jump to 2K resolution, you quadruple the amount of latent tokens the model has to process.
Wow, quadruple.
Yeah, and processing 4 times the visual shorthand makes the compute cost just skyrocket exponentially. It makes the model far too expensive to run commercially.
So if quadrupling the tokens breaks the budget, how does this newly branded H3 Omni-Transformer supposedly fix the math?
Well, according to MiniMax's documentation, this specific architecture separates the internal workloads. It completely decouples the understanding phase, which is the model analyzing your prompt and those 15 different reference files, from the generation phase, which is the actual rendering of the video and audio.
Okay.
By decoupling those two distinct tasks, they can optimize how the hardware handles each one separately, basically assigning different types of GPU memory to each task. Because of this specialized pipeline, they are reporting a 30% boost in end-to-end training performance.
That's huge. Then there is the other trademark, in-context regeneration. The OscarAI analysis highlights this as a major breakthrough for rendering small details, like text on a billboard or logo on a shirt.
Right, which AI usually struggles with.
Exactly. Usually, if a model wants to upscale a blurry video to high definition, it uses a bolt-on super resolution module. But those modules are basically just guessing. They look at a blurry pixel, guess what color should be next to it to make an edge sharper, and just output the result. That guessing game is exactly why AI-generated text and videos always morphs into alien hieroglyphics.
Yeah, the bolt-on super resolution module doesn't actually comprehend what the object is. It is literally just applying a sharpening filter blindly.
But in context, regeneration allegedly eliminates the guessing game. Instead of using that bolt-on filter, H3 rereads the original multimodal context you provided. It actively goes back to your source data, your text prompt, your reference images, to mathematically verify what that blurry object is supposed to be,
Yeah.
allowing it to render small text and find brand details accurately at 2K.
And that is the mechanical explanation of how they claim to achieve high fidelity without the astronomical compute costs.
I have to jump in here with some healthy skepticism, though. Like, these mechanisms sound brilliant in theory, but wait, are these just fancy trademark marketing words?
Yeah.
Has any independent scientist actually peer-reviewed these Omni-architectures? Or are we just taking a tech company's press release at face value?
What's fascinating here is that your skepticism is entirely warranted. There is zero independent, peer-reviewed academic validation for these specific architectural claims yet.
Really? Zero.
Zero. There are no published papers that scientists at other institutions can reproduce. While the engineering logic, separating understanding from generation to reduce token bloat, makes theoretical sense, we have to treat this strictly as company reporting. It is not established scientific fact. It is a highly plausible theory for how they built it, cleverly packaged in proprietary marketing terminology.
Okay, so even if the architectural names turn out to be marketing fluff, the pricing math they are achieving with it is absolute reality. And this is where the H3 launch moves from a neat tech demo to something that is actively disrupting the market today. Let's look at the verified numbers.
Yeah, the pricing strategy they have deployed is incredibly aggressive. Honestly, it's bordering on predatory.
H3 is charging just 13 cents per second of generated video. When you compare that to rival models on the market for 2K video, H3 is less than a third of the cost. And even if you step down the quality to 768p resolution, H3 is still less than half of what its rivals are charging for their lower-tier 720p outputs.
And they are also backing up that bottom-barrel pricing with verified quality metrics. The independent benchmarking firm, Artificial Analysis, just ranked H3 as #1 in video editing among all the foundational models they track.
Wow.
Yeah, this isn't the company grading its own homework. This is a respected third party stating that the output quality is genuinely top tier.
And the financial markets digested those two facts immediately. MiniMax's stock, which trades in Hong Kong under the ticker 0100HK, surged between 13% and 17% intraday right after the announcement. If you are running a business, a creative agency, or a content channel, this completely changes the math on your production budget. You are getting third-party validated #1 ranked video editing for less than half the price of the competition.
The sheer volume of that stock jump reflects a much broader strategy, too. Investors aren't just excited about a shiny new video generator. They recognize that the combination of independent validation and drastically undercut pricing proves MiniMax is making a play for total market dominance. They are attempting to starve their competitors by making the highest quality output the cheapest option available.
Right, but starving competitors with cheap prices is one thing. To truly dominate the AI landscape, you have to capture developer mindshare. You need the people building the next generation of apps to build them on your infrastructure.
Exactly.
And MiniMax is trying to win over those developers with a massive promise made on launch day, a promise that, upon closer inspection, might be a bit of an illusion. Let's dig into the open source mirage and the intense rivalry with ByteDance.
Yeah, this rivalry really defines a critical piece of the July 2026 AI landscape.
Because H3 launched on the exact same day as ByteDance's ByteDance 2.5 model. It was a highly orchestrated head-to-head showdown. ByteDance took the traditional conservative route. They kept ByteDance 2.5 completely closed behind an API. You pay them, you use their servers, they keep the secret sauce locked away. But MiniMax came out swinging. They boldly claimed that H3 would have open weights. They basically told the entire developer community, we are giving you the keys to the car. You can take this model and run it yourself.
And that specific headline, open weights, was the catalyst that captured the global news cycle. But the reality check for developers is a lot more sobering.
Oh yeah, because at launch, those weights did not exist to download anywhere. You couldn't go to GitHub or Hugging Face and pull the code. Currently, as we speak, H3 is only available via their official API and the Hailuo AI consumer app, just like ByteDance.
Exactly. When you read the fine print of their announcement, the illusion of an open ecosystem really starts to fade. MiniMax stated that the open source release will happen in the coming days, but noted it is strictly subject to applicable regulations.
If they are blaming applicable regulations for the delay, that sounds like a polite way of saying they are waiting for Chinese government regulators to approve the export, which means developers might be waiting forever. Doesn't that mean this open weights promise is basically paralyzed at launch?
That is precisely the situation. In the Chinese AI sector, applicable regulations is universally understood to mean pending official government approval. They legally cannot release the weights globally until the regulators sign off on the technology transfer.
So let's assume that approval eventually comes. The license itself has some massive strings attached. It will be released under the MiniMax community license. Now, this is free for non-commercial use, like academic research or just tinkering at home.
Right.
But if you want to use it commercially, you are only allowed to do so if your organization's annual revenue is under $20 million.
Right.
And even if you fall under that cap, it requires highly visible, mandatory attribution on your products.
So calling it open source is a massive stretch. It is a highly conditional, heavily restricted commercial license for a product that doesn't actually exist in the public domain yet.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Is this just a calculated marketing trick? Like, they soak up all the open source applause from the developer community on launch day, they dominate the news cycle, and they position themselves as the anti-ByteDance all without actually giving you the code to run on your own private servers.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a very established pattern we are seeing across the industry right now. MiniMax is copying the exact playbook used by Kimi K3 and Alibaba's Qwen 3.8. They are weaponizing the mere promise of open source against closed models like ByteDance.
Oh.
Yeah, it is a brilliant marketing strategy. You capture the developer mindshare early, branding yourself as the open, community-friendly alternative. But in the meantime, while everyone is waiting for those weights to drop, users who want to access the cheap, high-quality video are forced to use the MiniMax API. This means they remain fully exposed to all the data privacy risks of sending their proprietary internal data to MiniMax's external servers.
So you are basically locked into their ecosystem, feeding them your data while waiting for a gift that might never arrive.
Yes, and that forced reliance on their API raises a really important question about the foundational stability of everything we have discussed so far. I mean, being forced onto their servers exposes you to data privacy risks, but there is a much larger existential threat looming over that API itself.
Yeah, we have to talk about the legal elephant in the room. This is arguably the most vital piece of information from the OscarAI analysis for anyone actually looking to build a business or a creative agency around this tool. The consumer platform running H3, Hailuo AI, is facing an active, ongoing, and very serious copyright infringement lawsuit.
And this isn't a frivolous lawsuit from a single disgruntled creator. This is a highly coordinated legal strike from Hollywood heavyweights.
We are talking about Disney, Universal, and Warner Bros. Discovery. They are suing the platform for scraping their copyrighted material to train these very models. And this isn't just a vague legal threat. This lawsuit actually survived a motion to dismiss in federal court back in May 2026. A federal judge looked at the evidence Hollywood presented and decided it wasn't a baseless claim. The judge ruled there was enough merit here that the case needs to go forward to discovery and trial.
Surviving that motion to dismiss completely changes the entire risk profile of adopting H3. It moves the threat from a hypothetical PR issue to a very active legal vulnerability.
So what does this all mean for you? If you are an agency director and you are integrating H3 into your daily workflow today to save on that production budget, are you basically building your house on a legal minefield?
It is absolutely a legal minefield. The OscarAI analysis makes a fantastic point here. Any serious commercial operation needs to consult with their legal counsel before adopting H3 into their core pipeline. Yes, the technology might be incredibly cheap. Yes, it might be ranked #1 in video editing by independent benchmarks. But the intellectual property foundation that the entire model is trained on is highly contested in federal court.
Right.
If Hailuo AI loses that lawsuit, or even if they are just hit with a preliminary injunction by the court, the API you built your entire business workflow around could be legally shut off overnight.
It is the ultimate trapdoor in the magic show.
Exactly.
Right.
The illusion vanishes the second a judge signs an order.
Let's take a step back and just look at the entire journey we've been on today. The MiniMax H3 model represents a massive, undeniable leap forward. We are moving away from chain tools into the era of unified, multimodal generalist models. The chef is baking the whole cake at once, processing images, text, and audio natively. And it is doing this with incredible price-to-performance metrics that have been verified by third parties, completely radically changing the economics of video production. But that shiny new tech is wrapped in unverified engineering claims about omni-transformers. It is coasting on a phantom open-source promise that is currently trapped in regulatory limbo, and the whole infrastructure is sitting right in the crosshairs of a massive Hollywood copyright lawsuit.
Which is exactly why, for you as the listener, applying critical thinking is absolutely essential right now. We live in a world of constant information overload where a 13% stock jump or an open weights headline can easily blind you to the underlying reality of a product. You cannot just look at the surface level hype or the cheap price tag. You have to look at the API restrictions, the actual licensing terms, and the severe legal liabilities before you decide to integrate a tool like this into your technology stack.
Because knowledge is only valuable when you understand the context and the mechanics around it. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've seen these companies use open source as a flashy marketing tactic, generating massive hype on launch day while hiding behind applicable regulations to delay actually releasing the code. But what happens to the global AI ecosystem if that government approval never comes?
It's a huge question.
Are we rushing to build the entire future of video generation on platforms that might remain permanently closed, legally entangled, and entirely controlled by a single API switch? We started this deep dive talking about magic shows. We all want to believe in the spectacle, the illusion of limitless open technology. But before you step inside the box, you had better make sure you know exactly who is holding the wand and who owns the trapdoor.
Thank you for joining us as we unpacked this. Keep questioning the hype and keep looking for the mechanics behind the magic.
Until next time, stay curious.